Bebe is a name synonymous with football, but not for the reasons why some other names are.
For most people, Bebe is an answer to a pub quiz question.
Sometimes to the question, what is Sir Alex Ferguson's worst signing of all time for Manchester United? There was a lot of promise for Bebe when he joined Man United, and of course he was Portuguese, so he could have followed in the footsteps of Cristiano Ronaldo and Luis Nani, who both achieved so much for club and country. But 7 games and 2 goals was all Bebe had to offer for Manchester United before being shipped out. And he was forgotten by most football fans, his career a failure and labelled as a flop. But that is actually far from the truth. He's played nearly 400 times in all club competitions across his career, and 3 years ago he made his debut for his national team in Cape Verde, and has played 23 times since. So in this video, I'm going to explain to you why I think Bebe deserves more respect and why he isn't the flop that people think. Thiago Manuel Dias Correa, better known as Bebe, was born on the 12th of July 1990 in Agualva, Cayenne, Portugal. He was the son of Cape Verdean immigrants, and Bebe faced a turbulent childhood marked by hardship and instability. Abandoned at a young age by his father Francisco and his mother Diolinda, he was raised by his grandmother. But growing up on the outskirts of Lisbon, Bebe's 2 older brothers were already getting into trouble. His grandmother, who was raising them, feared Bebe would go down the same path, so she made a very difficult choice. This is a direct quote from Bebe. Quote, "She took advantage of the fact that I was the youngest, and she put me in an orphanage. At first, she told me I was going to holiday home. She said that I would be there Friday, Saturday and Sunday. But instead, I was there for 10 years. His brother was the one who nicknamed Bebe, which translates to baby in English.
What? Nah, I never knew that.
He was sent to an orphanage shelter just outside of Lisbon, around 20 kilometers, and life there offered few comforts. But football quickly became his refuge. Growing up in poverty, he developed his skills on the streets, a raw, improvised style that would later define Bebe's career. In 2009, whilst he was living at the shelter, Bebe and 7 other residents were invited to represent the CAIS team in the European Street Football Festival in Foča, Bosnia. He scored 4 goals in 6 matches, but the team failed to progress past the second group stage. His performance did not go unnoticed though, and it actually earned him consideration for Portugal's national homeless squad, though he ultimately did not feature in the tournament. The good performances caught the eye of amateur club Lourdes, but Bebe took his first step into professional football in the summer of 2009, joining second division side Estrela da Amadora. He quickly established himself as the team's standout player, and he ended the season with 4 goals in 26 appearances. However, Estrela were in a deep financial crisis. Desperate to raise funds, they offered Bebe to clubs across Europe for €125,000, but found no buyers. In May 2010, his former agent, Gonzalo Reis, even tried to place him at PSV Eindhoven for free, yet the Dutch club declined, knowing nothing about the player. As Estrela's troubles worsened, wages went unpaid, and Bebe terminated his contract and signed with the first division team Vitória Guimarães on a free transfer that summer. His initial deal included a €3 million release clause, but after an impressive pre-season performances, scoring 5 goals in 6 friendlies, the clause was quickly raised to €9 million. But despite only signing for Guimarães 5 weeks earlier, Bebe was sold to Manchester United. The transfer fee was widely reported at €7.4 million, the amount believed to match the release clause in Bebe's contract. However, Portuguese media insisted the fee was actually €9 million, with €5.5 million going to Vitória de Guimarães and €3.5 going to Gestafu, owned by Jorge Mendes, as third-party ownership was still legal in Portugal at the time. Reports also suggested that Real Madrid and Benfica showed interest in the forward, but Manchester United moved first. Sir Alex Ferguson only met Bebe a day before the signing, acting on a recommendation from his former assistant Carlos Queiroz. The unusual circumstances, a hefty fee for an unproven player, minimal scouting and a large agent payout later fueled one of football's strangest conspiracy theories. According to this theory, the signing wasn't driven purely by footballing potential, but as a part of a behind the scenes favour. The story goes that Carlos Queiroz was then managing Portugal, had previously helped Nani avoid a doping test, and in return United allegedly agreed to buy Bebe, a Jorge Mendes client, for an inflated price, funneling millions to the agent. Though this has never been proven, The combination of mystery, money and Mendes ensured the Bebe transfer remains one of the most greatest debates in Portuguese football history. But on the 12th of August that same year, Manchester United chief executive David Gill confirmed that Bebe would not be loaned out, but would instead train with the first team to prove himself and improve his English. On the 16th of August, the transfer was officially finalised. Following a medical and the completion of the necessary paperwork, he was presented to the media alongside new summer signings Javier Hernandez or Chicharito and Chris Smalling. But just a few years later after that transfer, in 2012 news broke that Portuguese authorities were investigating the deal as part of a wider anti-corruption probe, questioning both Bebe's former agent, which the now fired Gonzalo Reis, and now agent Jorge Mendes, but nothing ever came of it. In 2010, Bebe was named in Manchester United's 25-man Champions League squad on the 6th of September, and he made his debut on the 26th of September, coming on for Park Ji-sung in the 74th minute of a 5-2 away win over Scunthorpe United in the League Cup. His Premier League debut followed on the 2nd of October, replacing Anderson in a 0-0 draw with Sunderland. He would get his first start for Manchester United in the League Cup against Wolverhampton Wanderers, where he opened the scoring in a 3-2 victory at Old Trafford. Just a week later, he marked his Champions League debut with a goal, netting the third in a 3-0 win away to Bursaspor on the 2nd of November. Bebe also featured in the FA Cup, playing the full 90 minutes in a 1-0 victory over non-league side Crawley Town in the 5th round in 19th of February 2011. So with those stats, he was actually not so bad at Man United. He didn't set the world on fire, don't get me wrong, but is consistently getting minutes, and 7 games and 2 goals is not a bad return for your first season in England. He would spend the majority of his time with the reserves and the second squad that season, playing 11 games in the Development League and scoring 5 goals and getting 1 assist. His decent form of the reserves and the first team caught the eye of Turkish giant Beşiktaş, and it looked like a great move for the wingers to develop. Bebe joined Beşiktaş on a season-long loan, with the Turkish club even having an option to buy to make the move permanent for €2 million. His spell in Istanbul began with a major setback, as unfortunately he suffered a cruciate ligament injury while on duty with Portugal's under-21 side, an injury that sidelined him for 6 months. He did eventually return to action on the 26th of March 2012, making his Super League debut in a clash against Istanbul, and bear with me this one, Belediyespor, coming off the bench in the 76th minute in a 2-2 draw. However, his Beşiktaş adventure quickly took another sour turn. In April 2012, he was banished from the squad entirely after breaking a team curfew, having stayed out until the early hours of the morning, only making 4 appearances all season before heading back to Manchester United. But on his return, he was included in the pre-season squad for their tour of that year, and he made an immediate impact on his first game for United, scoring an injury time volley to secure a draw. But despite his promising start, he struggled to break into Man United's first team for the upcoming season. And on the 27th of December 2012, Man United decided it was best to send him back on loan to Portugal, and he joined Portuguese side Rayo Ave. They announced they had signed Bebe on loan, with Manchester United confirming the deal on the 1st of January 2013, and he made his full debut on the 9th of January in the Taça da Liga, scoring the only goal in a 1-0 victory over Marítimo to secure passage into the knockout stage. The manager of that Rayo Ave team? Current Nottingham Forest manager Nuno Espirito Santo. Bebe's league debut came as a substitute against Olhanense, playing the final 30 minutes. His first start followed against Gil Vicente, where he lasted 85 minutes before being replaced by Ahmed Hassan. He then played the full 90 minutes against his former club, Vitória Guimarães, although Rayo Ave suffered a 3-1 defeat that game. And he recorded his first assist for Rayo Ave against Marítimo, setting up Hassan just before half-time. But Bebe continued to make notable contributions at Rayo Ave, playing 75 minutes in a 2-1 win over Sporting, and scoring the second goal for the club against Académica in the 55th minute, which proved to be the match winner. Despite starting 6 of the final 7 league matches of the season, he fails to add to his goal tally. Reflecting on his time in Portugal, Bebe expressed a desire to make the move permanent, citing a lack of support during his time in England. And he would get his wish. Reflecting on the move in 2023, he would say to ESPN, quote, "If I knew what I knew now, I'd have been at United for many more years. I'd sleep more. I wouldn't do too many crazy things. When I had a day off, I used to take a plane to Portugal. Today, I look after myself and be more professional. Look after my body, focus on football. I was there at United, but in my head, I was on holiday with my friends. But I don't regret it. You have to think, I went from having nothing in an orphanage to a place with the biggest stars in the world. They were the best team around at that moment. I think it's normal that a 20-year-old kid gets a bit lost. I didn't have a father. I didn't have a mother or grandmother to say, no, you can't do that. It was just me, and I did whatever I wanted. End quote. On the 2nd of September 2013, Bebe returned to Portugal on another loan, this time joining Paços de Ferreira for the remainder of the season. And he made his debut on the 14th of September against Benfica and scored his first goal for the club 10 days later in a thrilling 4-3 win away at Marítimo. Bebe hit an impressive run of form in March that year, finding the net 6 times in as many games. Then he scored twice on the final league match of the season, a 4-2 loss to Académica, which left Paços de Ferreira in the relegation playoffs. In that decisive tie against C. de Aves, Bebe opened the scoring on a 3-1 victory on the 21st of May, finishing the season with a total of 39 games, 14 goals and 2 assists, and keeping Paços de Ferreira up from relegation. It was after that season that Bebe's time at Manchester United was done. But he would make a massive move. On the 25th of July 2014, Bebe signed a 4-year contract with Portuguese champions Benfica, in a deal reported to be up to €3 million, but with United also entitled to 50% of any future sale. And on the 10th of August, he played a role in Benfica's Supertaça triumph, which was decided by a penalty shootout in which he scored a penalty against his former side Rayo Vallecano. But it would not continue to be so good for Bebe, as he only made his first division debut for Benfica on the 21st of December 2014, coming off the bench to replace Jonas in the last 25 minutes of a 1-0 home victory over Gil Vicente. And he wasn't injured, he wasn't suspended, he was just on the bench or not even selected in Jorge Jesus' squad for that year. He would only play 6 times for Benfica, totaling 240 minutes. And on the 9th of January 2015, Bebe moved to Spanish side Cordoba on a loan deal for the remainder of the season. He made his La Liga debut just 3 days later in a 1-0 victory at Rayo Vallecano. Despite featuring in 18 matches, he was unable to score once, and the season ended in relegation for Cordoba. The next season, he wanted to return to Spain, and on the 10th of July 2015, Bebe joined Rayo Vallecano on a season-long loan. He debuted on the 22nd of August in a 0-0 draw against Valencia, but scored his first goal for the club on the 26th September in a 3-2 defeat to Sevilla. Despite his contributions, 3 goals and 4 assists in 37 appearances, Rayo Vallecano were relegated at the end of the season. On the 12th of July 2016, Bebe signed a 4-year contract with Eibar in La Liga. He made his debut on the 19th of August in a 2-1 loss at Deportivo La Coruña and scored his first goal for the Basque side in the 24th of September in a 2-0 win over Real Sociedad. In January 2018, he returned to Rayo Vallecano on loan for the remainder of the season. And it was at Rayo Vallecano where this once journeyman found a new home. After a decent season for Eibar in 16-17, 5 goals, 3 assists in 26 games, and Eibar even finished 10th, he had sporadic game time, only playing 9 times in January and then was loaned to Vallecano. But he did have to drop down a division, playing 17 games and scoring 3, and helped them get promoted back to La Liga. And he was signed permanently the next season. Unfortunately though, he suffered a serious knee injury a year later on the 26th of October in 2019, and he was unable to play for more than a year until he returned on the 29th of October 2020. But he redeemed himself and had 5 great seasons at Rayo Vallecano, totaling 187 games, 24 goals and 17 assists. Bebe would say, quote, "I think at Rayo I found something like what I had at the orphanage. Down to earth people who treat me well. I feel at home. And I have a lot of affection for the club, and I always will. I want to be here for many more years, and now I'm the captain." End quote. But with no realistic chance of breaking into Portugal's senior squad, Bebe announced in January 2019 that he intended to represent Cape Verde, his country of heritage, and had to begin the necessary paperwork to switch allegiances. He hoped to feature at the 2021 African Cup of Nations, but unfortunately was not selected. But on the 16th of March 2022, Bebe received his first call-up to Cape Verde national team, and he made a dream debut, scoring in a 2-0 win friendly victory over Guadeloupe, scoring his side's second goal in the 50th minute. And in December 2023, a dream came true for Bebe, as he was named in Cape Verde's squad for the tournament in the Ivory Coast for the African Cup of Nations. He made his AFCON debut on the 14th of January 2024 and in a 2-1 win over Ghana, and in the following match, he opened the scoring with a brilliant free kick against Mozambique, helping Cape Verde to a 3-0 victory that secured their place in the knockout stages as the first team to qualify. Although he enjoyed success with Cape Verde, he unfortunately would not have success at Rayo Vallecano anymore, because on the 31st of January 2023, having seen limited playing time during the 22-23 season, Bebe was loaned out to second-tier side Real Zaragoza until the end of the season. Upon his return, he remained part of the squad under manager Francisco, featuring mostly as a substitute. However, his role diminished following the new manager Inigo Perez. And on the 30th of August 2024, he parted ways with Rayo Vallecano by mutual agreement. 3rd of September 2024, Bebe signed with the second division side Racing de Ferrol. He made 16 appearances for the club, scoring once before terminating his contract on the 1st of February 2025. But now, where is Bebe currently? Shortly after leaving Racing, Bebe joined Spanish 3rd division outfit Ibiza on a 6-month deal, reuniting with former manager Paco Gémez. During his spell, he played 18 matches, scoring 6 goals and providing 4 assists, and he's currently still with the club. But I think this career retrospective changes many people's mind, including mine, about Bebe. Many will remember Bebe as one of football's greatest flop stories. The unknown signing who arrived at Manchester United in mysterious circumstances, if you believe some conspiracy theories, and never lived up to the hype. But to reduce his career to that single chapter is to ignore the extraordinary journey that came before and after. From growing up in an orphanage and experiencing homeless, Bebe defied the odds to become a professional footballer. His career has spanned more than 15 years, taking him across Portugal, Turkey and Spain, where he's rebuilt himself and even became a cult hero at Rayo Vallecano, becoming their captain. He didn't just survive in the game, he thrived long enough to write a second act that most doubters never saw coming. And in 2022, he made the leap from club football to the international stage, representing Cape Verde and playing in Africa's most prestigious tournament, the African Cup of Nations. That's not a story of failure, that's a story of a man who refused to be defined by where he started or by what others expected of him. Bebe's legacy isn't that he didn't make it at Manchester United, his legacy is that he made it at all, and that after everything he's been through, from the streets to the stadiums, Bebe's greatest victory is knowing he'll never have to walk them homeless again. And he's also out in Ibiza. And that can't be too bad either. But yes, that is the end of this video. Let me know what you thought of this one. What do you think of Bebe? How do you have fond memories of him? If you watched him at Rayo Vallecano, what did you think? Is he a cult hero? Is he someone that's fondly remembered? Please let me know in the comments. I like Bebe. You know, I remember watching him at Benfica sporadically. I remember him taking the penalty against Rayo Ave. And yeah, I feel like the whole story, you could honestly make it into, especially the beginning, definitely into like a production film or, you know, something like that. I think there's a lot of stories that Bebe could tell. But yeah, I think he's had a great career. Obviously, maybe not to the levels of some other Portuguese talents, but from where he came from to where he is now, I think, you know, any of us would take that currently. But yeah, I've been Sam Fonseca. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time, and peace.